In this video we're going to take a look at loading 45 ACP on the Lee Loadmaster 5-station progressive reloading press. We've already installed the turret, which has the dies. We've also installed the shell plate. Let's see what else we need to do to get prepared to load 45 ACP with this press. Let's take a moment to review the way that we've installed our dies here. So this is station number 1, and we've got a universal decapping die in that station. In station number 2, we've got our sizing and depriming die, but we've removed the decapping pin because we're going to use this die to center the shell casing over the priming station when the ram is at the top of the stroke. Then we've got our expanding and powder charging station. We've got our bullet seating and then bullet crimping as separate stations. So we're using a seating and crimping die without crimp in station number 4, and then we're using the Lee factory crimp die in station number 5. So the first thing we're going to do with consumables is stock our primer tray. So we're going to take the primer tray out of the primer carriage. Next, we're going to fill the primer tray. So in order to accomplish that, we're going to bend the tab back and then rotate the cover so that we can take the cover off. Then we're going to take our primer package, which just has the primers held by the cardboard cover. We're going to invert that and then just dump all of these primers into the primer tray, and then proceed to shake the primer tray until the primers have righted themselves. What I usually find is that I'll get most of the way there and then just nudge the last couple by hand to get them oriented properly. Then we can take the tray cover and put it back on, and then you need to twist it until the tab locks up here. We can now put it back on the press. So we're going to take the tray that we just filled, and then we're going to then plug it into the primer carriage. Looks like I lost one there, that's fine. And then we're going to tap the whole tray assembly until we see the primer chute fill up. Next, we're going to fill the powder measure, and in this case we're using Winchester W231 flattened ball powder, which I use frequently for 45 ACP. And then I'm just going to kind of guide with my hands to make sure there's no spillage. Fill that up about 3/4 full or so. And then we're going to put the lid back on and then make sure that the powder measure is turned on. When we swivel the reservoir, we can turn the powder measure on and off, which is nice because then we can run it through a few cases through after we've turned it off, take these brass nuts off, and then take the whole hopper off the top, empty the reservoir into our powder canister. So that's kind of a nice feature. So let's validate our powder charge. We've looked up our charge in the table that came with the powder measure. We know what volume it corresponds to, and we've already put that disc in. So now what we're going to do is put the piece of brass that we're going to use to validate the charge on our scale, and then turn the scale on so that it zeroes out for this particular brass. So next I'm going to go to station number 3, and I'm going to use the rim of my case to pull the case retainer out of the way. I'm going to raise the ram completely, which will charge this case, and then before I index I'm going to just pull that out and then index the carriage. Then I'm going to take the charged case and put it back on the scale. And here we see that we have 5.8 grains, and for this load that's sufficient. So I can then go back and push the case retainer a little bit too far in. The next case that comes around is going to knock that out to the right position. So to validate our setup, let's take a single piece of brass, drop it down the case feed tube, and then run this through the press. My case drops into position. My case gets inserted. I just deprimed. It's going to index to the second position, and we're going to validate that our primer chute is full. That's good. So we're sitting there deprimed. Now we're going to go up and get sized and primed. So at the top of the stroke, this bolt here pushes against the lever which seats the primer in station number 2. So far so good. Now we're going to expand the case mouth and do our powder charge. And before I place a bullet, every time I always visually check the powder level. We're going to take a bullet, put that in place, and we're going to seat the bullet to the proper depth. And then finally in the last station we're going to use the factory crimp die to apply a crimp. So here we've got our first completed round. We've got a primer that's slightly below the surface of the case rim there. That's good, probably by a few thousandths or so. You can just feel it barely there. And we can now check our cartridge overall length with some digital calipers and make sure that the expansion on our case mouth has been taken off by the factory crimp die, by measuring it, by feeling it, and even by chambering it into the pistol that we plan to use. The last thing we need to do before we start reloading is to fill the case feed tube. And so what I've got here is a bin of brass that's already been cleaned and lubricated. Use some Hornady one-shot on that. And I'm just going to take handfuls of this, put it into the edge of the tray, and then shake the case collator, and it's just that easy. They're going to fill up the tube. So let's start loading. So do our visual check on our powder level and place the bullet each time. And we can start to hear the completed rounds going into the completed round bin each time. Check our primer chute every once in a while to make sure that the primers are full. So you notice I've got a bullet tray here off to the left, and I've actually incorporated that into my stand. Just clamped a bracket to the stand there. That, in combination with the case feeder, makes it very easy and time efficient to load quickly. And now, so I'm just about out of cases in my current tube. So next I'll need to flip the case tube. So when our tubes run out, what we want to do is just take the assembly, rotate it, and then when it pops into position, a new tube worth of cases is ready for feeding. So we've seen what it takes to reload 45 ACP ammunition with the Lee Loadmaster 5-station progressive reloading press. In future videos, we'll explore other aspects of reloading with the Lee Loadmaster, including other calibers, caliber changeovers, and other information. I hope you'll stay tuned. Thank you.